The sleek silver ship glided silently through the darkness of space, its advanced sensors scanning the seemingly quiet solar system. Captain Reed of the exploration vessel Star Seeker stood proudly on the bridge, watching as yet another primitive world appeared on their screens. His species had mapped thousands of developing worlds, and this one seemed no different. Another backwater planet, Reed muttered, his crystalline eyes reflecting the blue-green world on the main screen. Run the standard analysis. His crew, all members of the highly advanced collective, worked with practiced efficiency. They had done this countless times before. Categorize a primitive world, add it to their database, and move on. But something about this planet made their instruments give unusual readings. Captain, called out First Officer Smith, her delicate fingers dancing over the control panel. These readings, they're unlike anything we've seen before. This species has achieved nuclear capability, but they're still using combustion engines. They have primitive space stations, yet they haven't even unified their planet under one government. Reed floated over to her station, his anti-gravity suit humming softly. Impossible. No species develops that chaotically. Run the scan again. The second scan showed the same results. Even more puzzling, the planet's inhabitants seemed to be advancing at an alarming rate. Their technology was jumping forward in ways that defied the normal evolutionary path of civilizations. Perhaps we should demonstrate our presence, Reed decided. The standard show of force usually brings primitive worlds in line quickly. Target their largest city with our light display. The Star Seeker positioned itself above what their computers identified as New York City. They prepared to unleash a harmless but impressive display of their superior technology, a common tactic used to establish dominance over developing worlds. But something went wrong. The moment their energy weapons powered up for the light show, dozens of primitive but effective radar systems locked onto their position. Military jets scrambled from bases across the region, rising to meet them with surprising speed. Captain, Officer Smith's voice carried a note of alarm. They're not running away. They're advancing toward us. Reed watched in disbelief as the primitive aircraft approached his ship. Impossible. They should be cowering in fear. No species has ever. His words were cut short by a barrage of missiles from the human aircraft. While individually weak, the sheer number of projectiles overwhelmed their shields, which were calibrated for more advanced energy weapons. Evasive maneuvers, Reed ordered, but the humans had already called in more aircraft from other regions. The Star Seeker found itself surrounded by what the crew would later describe in their emergency transmission as an angry swarm of hornets. The humans, showing remarkable coordination for a non-unified species, had somehow adapted their primitive weapons on the fly. They were now firing modified missiles that interfered with the ship's advanced systems. How did they know? Reed wondered aloud as his ship's systems began failing one by one. How did they adapt so quickly? The final blow came from an unexpected direction. The humans had launched a crude but effective space vehicle from their primitive space station. It carried what appeared to be an old nuclear device, modified in ways their sensors couldn't comprehend. As the Star Seeker's systems failed, Reed managed to send one final message to the collective. Warning: Earth is not what it seems. They're not primitive. They're something else entirely. Do not underestimate. The message cut off as the human device detonated, not destroying the Star Seeker but completely disabling it. As the ship drifted powerless in orbit, Reed and his crew watched in shock as human space vehicles approached to capture them. In the end, the most advanced ship in the collective's exploration fleet was defeated by a species that still used fossil fuels. The report of this encounter would send shockwaves through the galactic community, and Earth would soon earn its reputation as the most dangerous, primitive world ever discovered. The humans hadn't just survived first contact. They had turned it into their victory. And this was only the beginning of the galaxy's introduction to Earth's unique approach to problem-solving. The Grand Council chamber of the collective buzzed with nervous energy. 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat around a massive crystal table, their forms varying from crystalline structures to gaseous clouds contained in environmental suits. Today's emergency meeting had only one topic: Earth. The chief counselor, an ancient being named First Light, floated at the head of the table. Before him lay the damaged data core recovered from the Star Seeker's wreckage. The ship's encounter with Earth had occurred just 3 days ago, and the implications were troubling. "Play the full report," First Light commanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. A holographic display sparked to life in the center of the table, showing images and data from Earth. The council members watched in silence as the information unfolded before them. "Impossible," whispered Council Member Dawn Walker, her crystalline form shimmering with concern. "This species survived not one, but 5 extinction-level events." The data continued to stream. Earth's history played out like a horror story to the peaceful collective. Ice ages, massive volcanic eruptions, giant meteor impacts, and yet humans had survived them all. Not only survived, but thrived. "Look at their technological development," pointed out Council Member Stormbreaker, his gaseous form swirling agitatedly in his containment suit. "They went from primitive flight to space travel in less than 70 years. No species develops that fast without genetic engineering." The council members shifted uncomfortably as more information appeared. Humans had split the atom before they had fully understood it. They had sent primitive robots to other planets while still fighting wars with projectile weapons. They had created worldwide communication networks while half their population still used basic tools. "Their warfare capabilities are concerning," noted military advisor Steelheart. "They haven't had a single century without conflict, yet their technological progress accelerates during wartime. It defies all known patterns of civilization development." The hologram showed scenes from human history: tanks rolling across deserts, ships navigating frozen seas, soldiers fighting in dense jungles. The humans fought in every environment their planet offered, adapting to conditions that would kill most species. "But what truly worries me," Steelheart continued, "is their response to the Star Seeker. They didn't panic. They didn't run. They adapted existing weapons within minutes to counter advanced technology they'd never seen before." First Light raised a glowing appendage, and the hologram froze. "We face an unprecedented situation," he announced. "This species developed in isolation on a death world that should have killed them many times over. Instead of dying, they turned their planet's harsh conditions into advantages." The data showed more unusual facts. Humans were the only known species to domesticate predators as companions. They created art and music purely for emotional satisfaction. They had thousands of different cultures on a single planet, yet could unite instantly against outside threats. "We have 2 options," First Light continued. "We can attempt to contain them now, while they're still primarily confined to their solar system, and risk them uniting against us, like they did against the Star Seeker. Interrupted Dawn Walker. "They would view it as a challenge. You've seen the data. Challenges make them stronger." First Light nodded slowly. "The second option is to quarantine their entire solar system, mark it as an extreme hazard zone, and warn all species to avoid contact." The council chamber fell silent as the members considered their choices. The humans represented everything the collective had evolved beyond: aggression, unpredictability, and constant adaptation. Yet these same traits had turned them into something unique in the galaxy. "I moved to classify Earth as a Class X hazard zone," Stormbreaker finally said. "No contact, no interference, no exceptions." The vote was unanimous. Earth would be marked in all galactic databases as the most dangerous world ever discovered, not because of its natural hazards or wildlife, but because it had produced a species that turned survival itself into an art form. As the council members departed, First Light remained, watching the final images from Earth. "We thought them primitive," he mused to himself, "but perhaps we're the primitive ones, having forgotten how to survive without our technology." The galaxy has just become a much more interesting place. Professor Green had studied hundreds of species across the galaxy in his long career. With gray hair and wise eyes, he was among the collective's most experienced observers. Yet nothing in his 300 years of research had prepared him for Earth. Sitting in his cloaked observation pod high above New York City, he watched the humans through his advanced sensors. This was his 30th day of observation, and each day brought new surprises. Research log, day 30. He spoke into his recorder. The more I watch humans, the less I understand them. They continue to defy every pattern we know about intelligent life. Below him, a small scene caught his attention. A human had fallen on the street, and instead of continuing their way as any rational species would, other humans stopped to help. Some even delayed their own schedules to ensure the stranger was okay. They help without benefit to themselves. Green noted, fascination clear in his voice. Most species only aid their own family groups, but humans help complete strangers. His sensors picked up another interesting situation in a nearby park. A human was playing with a large four-legged predator, what they called a dog. The animal could easily kill the human, yet they trusted each other completely. Remarkable, he muttered, adjusting his instruments. They're the only known species to turn predators into companions. Not just one type, but hundreds of different predator species. They even sleep in the same living spaces. Green's pod silently moved through the city, observing more scenes of daily life. He watched humans create art on building walls, while others played music on street corners. None of these activities served any survival purpose, yet humans devoted significant time to them. They create art purely for emotional response, he recorded. Music, paintings, sculptures, all without practical purpose. No other species does this. They even paint their bodies and wear unnecessary decorations just because they enjoy it. His observations took him to different parts of the city. In one area, humans were eating food from all over their world. In another, they practiced different forms of exercise and combat sports. Some were learning languages from other regions of their planet, while others were studying the stars. Their diversity is mind-boggling. Green continued his log. In this one city, I've counted over 100 different cultural groups. They speak different languages, eat different foods, follow different beliefs, yet they all function together. It shouldn't be possible, but they make it work. As night fell, Green's sensors detected something that made him lean forward in surprise. In a small room, a human was creating a story about aliens, ironically, not too different from his own species. The human had never seen real aliens, but was imagining what they might be like. They constantly imagine things that don't exist, he noted. They create thousands of stories about things they've never seen. Most species only think about what they know, but humans dream about the unknown. They don't fear it. They want to explore it. Green's pod drifted to a research facility. Inside, humans were working on various projects. One group was trying to cure diseases. Another was designing new space vehicles. A third was working on clean energy. Most fascinating of all, he recorded, they work on multiple problems at once. When they fail, they don't give up. They seem to view failure as useful. They learn from it. It makes them try harder. As his observation shift ended, Green prepared to send his daily report to the council. His hands hesitated over the control panel as he considered what he'd seen. Final note for today, he spoke softly. I must revise my earlier assessments. Humans are not primitive or simple. They are something we've never seen before. They combine traits that should not go together. Aggressive yet compassionate, competitive yet cooperative, primitive yet innovative. Looking down at the city one last time, Green added, I understand now why the council fears them. They are unpredictable because they are endlessly creative. They are dangerous because they never stop trying to improve. But most importantly, they are powerful because they can learn from and work with anyone or anything, even their own predators. His pod rose higher into the night sky, becoming invisible among the stars. "The Council thinks quarantine will contain them," he whispered to himself. "But I've seen how they think. Barriers don't stop humans. They just make humans more determined to cross them." Military Commander Stone sat stiffly in his command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing various aspects of human warfare. As the collective's top military analyst, he had spent the last week studying Earth's combat capabilities. With each passing day, his concern grew deeper. "Continue playback of Earth's combat scenarios," he ordered, his voice steady despite his growing unease. The room filled with images from different human conflicts throughout their history. "Sir," his assistant, Officer White, pointed to one of the displays. "You need to see this. These humans are fighting in a place called Sayichin Glacier at heights of over 5,000 meters in temperatures below -50 degrees. Commander Stone leaned forward, his eyes widening. "Impossible. No species willingly fights in such conditions. The energy cost alone would." "That's not all, sir," White interrupted, switching to another display. "Here they are fighting in a place called Death Valley at +50 degrees. And here," he changed the display again, "underwater combat teams operating at depths that should crush them." The commander watched in silence as more footage played. Humans fought in dense jungles, vast deserts, frozen tundra, and even in space. They adapted to every environment, turning hostile conditions into tactical advantages. "Show me their weapons development," Stone ordered, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The displays shifted to show human weapons through the ages. What they saw defied all military logic. While most species developed energy weapons and abandoned projectiles, humans kept both. They improved their primitive weapons while developing new ones. "Look at this, sir," White highlighted a particular scene. "They still use projectile weapons from 100 years ago, but they've modified them with modern materials and targeting systems. They combine old and new technology in ways we never considered." Stone watched as footage showed humans using simple improvised explosives alongside advanced guided missiles. They turned civilian vehicles into military transports, farming tools into weapons, and household chemicals into explosives. "They're not just warriors," Stone muttered. "They're innovators. Every human seems capable of becoming a weapon maker." The next series of images showed human soldiers continuing to fight despite injuries that would stop most species. They fought on while wounded, helped their injured companions, and even returned to combat after recovering from severe injuries. "Their pain tolerance is remarkable," White noted. "And look at this. They have dedicated soldiers who run into danger to rescue others. They call them combat medics." Commander Stone stood up and walked closer to the main display. "Show me their response times to threats." The screen filled with data from various human military responses. In crisis situations, their military forces could mobilize in hours. Civilian factories could be converted to military production in days. Their entire industries could shift to war production in weeks. "Sir," White said hesitantly, "there's something else. Their civilian population. They don't act like civilians during war. Look at these records from their last major conflict." The displays showed civilians working in factories, growing food, providing medical care, and even forming resistance movements in occupied territories. The entire species seemed capable of joining a war effort. "Enough," Stone ordered. The displays froze. "I've seen what I need to see. We need to update Earth's classification immediately." He began dictating his report. "Earth Military Assessment. Final Classification. Extreme Hazard. Humans demonstrate unprecedented military capabilities. They are the only known species that fights effectively in all environmental conditions, maintains and improves both primitive and advanced weapons, continues fighting despite serious injuries, converts civilian resources to military use rapidly, involves their entire population in war efforts, shows extreme adaptability in combat situations." Stone paused, considering his next words carefully. "Additional note. Traditional military superiority may be ineffective against humans. They seem to fight better when outmatched, developing unexpected solutions to overcome superior forces. He turned to White, his expression grave. Send this to the Council immediately. Add one final warning. Any military action against Earth risks not just defeating their armies, but teaching them our weaknesses. The humans don't just fight wars. They learn from them, and they learn very, very quickly. As the report was transmitted, Stone looked at the final image on his screen. A human child playing with a toy spacecraft. They even train their young through play to think about space combat, he murmured. We're not just dealing with a warrior species. We're dealing with a species that has made adaptation and warfare into an art form. The massive mining ship Resource Seeker dropped out of hyperspace just beyond Mars. Despite the Council's quarantine order, the Black Ring Corporation had decided Earth's resources were too valuable to ignore. Their leader, Commander Black, stood on the bridge, looking at the blue planet with greedy eyes. Primitive weapons can't harm our shields, he told his crew. Begin the mining operation in their largest ocean. If the humans interfere, show them what real power looks like. As the ship moved towards Earth, alarm signals suddenly blared. Multiple human satellites had detected them, despite their advanced cloaking technology. Within minutes, every human military base worldwide went on high alert. Let them watch. Black laughed. Their weapons are useless against. His words stopped as hundreds of objects launched from Earth. The humans had modified their nuclear missiles with new guidance systems, clearly designed after studying the wreckage of the Star Seeker *. Impossible. Black shouted as the first wave of missiles hit. While individual missiles couldn't penetrate their shields, the humans had launched over 300 at once. The combined force made the ship's shields flicker dangerously. But this was just the beginning. Across Earth, something unprecedented happened. Every nation, despite their differences, united against the alien threat. Military secrets were shared, weapons were combined in new ways, and strategies were quickly developed. Sir, his sensor officer called out. The humans are using their ocean to hide their submarines. They're launching more missiles from underwater positions we can't track. Before Black could respond, something even stranger appeared on their screens. Humans had turned ordinary cargo ships into missile platforms. Civilian vessels, fishing boats, and even private yachts were now carrying weapons. How are they organizing this so fast? Black wondered as his ship's shields weakened under the constant barrage. We planned this attack for months, but they're countering us in hours. The situation got worse. Human space stations, previously thought to be primitive, revealed hidden weapon systems. They had clearly been preparing for this kind of attack since their encounter with the Star Seeker *. They're not just defending, the tactical officer reported nervously. They're learning our shield frequencies. Each missile strike is more effective than the last. Black watched in horror as humans turned everyday items into weapons. They used fishing nets filled with metal to disrupt his ship's sensors. They converted communications satellites into signal jammers. Even space debris was being directed toward his ship by carefully planned explosions. Sir, we're detecting something strange, his science officer reported. The humans, they're broadcasting our shield frequencies worldwide. They're sharing information about our weaknesses with everyone. This was warfare unlike anything the aliens had seen. Humans didn't fight like a normal species. They didn't follow rules or patterns. They used everything available, adapted constantly, and worked together in ways that should have been impossible for a non-unified species. The final blow came from an unexpected direction. Thousands of small private rockets, launched from backyards and small companies across Earth, surrounded the mining ship. Each carried a small but powerful explosive, designed specifically to target the weakening shields. How can they have so many space-capable vehicles? Black gasped. Their technology shouldn't be this advanced. Sir, we must retreat, his second-in-command urged. The humans, they're not just fighting us. They're studying us, learning us. Every minute we stay here, they understand our technology better." As the resource seeker turned to flee, Black received one final shock. The humans had decoded their communication systems and broadcast a simple message to his ship. "Don't come back. Next time, we won't let you leave." The mining ship limped back into hyperspace, its crew shaken by what they had witnessed. They had expected to find easy prey. Instead, they found a species that turned everything, even their own civilian population and primitive technology, into an effective fighting force. In the aftermath, Black prepared his report to his superiors. He wrote only one line: "Earth is not a primitive world to be harvested. It is a fortress world that harvests its attackers' technology. Never again." The humans had not just defended their world. They had shown the galaxy why Earth was called the Hornets' Nest. Like the insects they were named after, humans were relatively small, seemingly primitive, but capable of swarming together to defeat much larger threats. And just like real hornets, they made sure any attacker regretted disturbing their nest. In a crowded space bar at the edge of the galaxy, dozens of different alien species gathered to trade stories and information. The bar's owner, an old trader named Blue, had seen many strange things in his 500 years. But lately, all anyone wanted to talk about was Earth. Tonight was no different. A damaged ship from the Black Ring Corporation had just docked for repairs, and its crew sat in the corner, drinking and sharing their story. "You don't understand," one of the crew members said, his hands shaking as he held his drink. "We had the most advanced mining ship in the corporation. Our shields could stop military-grade weapons. But the humans, they turned everything into a weapon. Everything." The bar grew quiet as more aliens gathered to listen. Stories about Earth had become the most popular tales in space. "Tell us more," urged a young merchant, her crystalline form glowing with excitement. "Are the stories true? Can they really adapt to any weapon?" The crew member nodded. "We lasted less than 6 hours. They took our shield frequencies and shared them with every human on their planet. They turned their primitive rockets into weapons. They even used their ocean to hide their submarines." At another table, a veteran cargo pilot joined the conversation. "I heard they trained predators to work with them." "Is that true?" "Predators," laughed a different crew member. "They keep predators as pets. They sleep in the same houses with them. They treat deadly animals like family." Blue wiped down his bar counter, listening to the stories spread. In the past month, he had heard hundreds of tales about Earth. Each one seemed more incredible than the last, but they all had proof. "I have footage," announced a tall alien researcher, activating a small hologram projector. "Watch this. Humans playing in snow at -30 degrees. And here, humans swimming in waters that would freeze most species. They treat deadly environments like playgrounds." The images changed to show humans climbing mountains, diving into oceans, and exploring caves. The bar's patrons watched in amazement as humans willingly entered environments that would kill most species. "That's nothing," said a scared security officer. "Show them the combat footage." The hologram shifted to show humans fighting in various conditions: deserts, jungles, Arctic zones, and even underwater. The bar fell silent as they watched humans adapt to each environment, using whatever was available to survive and fight. "Now I understand why the council quarantined their system," whispered a merchant. "They're not just dangerous because they're strong. They're dangerous because they never stop learning, never stop adapting." Blue noticed a group of young alien adventurers in the corner, taking notes and looking excited. He'd seen that look before, the look of those who thought they could challenge Earth despite the warnings. "Listen well," he called out, his voice carrying the weight of experience. "The humans have a saying: don't poke a hornet's nest. Their entire planet is like that nest. Leave them alone, and they'll generally leave you alone. But attack them." He let the sentence hang. "But why are they like this?" asked a curious scientist. "No other species developed this way." An older alien professor stood up. I studied their planet's history. Earth tried to kill them countless times. Ice ages, massive storms, volcanic eruptions, meteor strikes. Most species would have died out. Humans, they survived it all. And each time, they came back stronger. The bar buzzed with conversation as more stories were shared. Tales of human creativity, their strange ability to turn anything into a tool or weapon, their habit of helping even complete strangers, their love of exploring dangerous places. They have a name now in the galactic community, Blue announced. The Untamed. Because no force, not nature, not technology, not even their own limitations, has managed to tame them. As the night went on, more ships arrived, and more stories were shared. Earth had become a legend in the galaxy. Some saw humans as monsters to be feared. Others viewed them as potential allies. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humanity had earned their place among the stars not through advanced technology, but through their unbreakable spirit and endless adaptability. Remember, Blue told his customers as they left, the Council's warning still stands. Earth is classified as an extreme hazard zone for a reason. They're not hostile unless provoked, but once provoked. He looked at the Black Ring Corporation's damaged ship through the window. Well, you've heard the stories. The Grand Council chamber looked different today. Instead of its usual formal arrangement, the room had been modified to accommodate a unique event, the first official meeting with human representatives. First Light, the chief counselor, watched as the human delegation entered. They were smaller than most species present, yet they carried themselves with quiet confidence. Their group included military leaders, scientists, and diplomats, a combination that perfectly represented their species' diverse approach to everything. Welcome to the Galactic Council, First Light announced. After much study and discussion, we believe we finally understand why Earth is unique in our galaxy. The main holographic display activated, showing Earth in all its glory. Images of mountains, oceans, deserts, and jungles filled the chamber. Your world, First Light continued, should have killed you 1,000 times over. Most species evolve on planets with stable conditions. But Earth, he paused, gesturing at the images. Earth tried to kill your species with ice ages, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and meteor strikes. The human representatives nodded, knowing their history well. But instead of dying, Stormbreaker added, his gaseous form swirling excitedly, you adapted. Each disaster made you stronger. Where other species would have fallen, you evolved. The display showed humans living in every environment on Earth, from the freezing poles to burning deserts, from deep oceans to high mountains. Your planet's extreme biodiversity forced you to become problem solvers, Dawn Walker explained. You faced more challenges in a single day than most species face in a year. It made you incredibly adaptable. Professor Green, who had studied Earth closely, stepped forward. You turned predators into friends, he said, showing images of humans with their pets. You learned to use tools by watching animals. You even learned to control fire, the only species we know that did this without help. The display shifted to show human achievements. Cities rising from deserts, bridges spanning impossible gaps, vessels exploring ocean depths, and ships reaching for the stars. Most impressively, military advisor Steelheart noted, you did all this while isolated. Other species received guidance from spacefaring civilizations. You had to figure everything out alone. It made you uniquely creative. The human delegation's leader, Admiral Thompson, spoke for the first time. We always wondered if we were alone, she said. That wonder drove us to look up at the stars and dream. Isolation taught us to rely on ourselves. First Light nodded. And that is why the Council has made an unprecedented decision. Instead of maintaining the quarantine, we wish to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth. The chamber erupted in murmurs. This was a dramatic change from the Council's usual careful approach. But First Light raised his appendage for silence. We want to do this on your terms. We have learned that forcing humanity in any direction only makes you push back harder. Instead, we offer partnership. Admiral Thompson smiled. Partnership is something we understand well. Despite our reputation for warfare, humans have always achieved our greatest successes through cooperation. The display showed new images, humans working together, helping each other, building communities, and exploring space. Exactly. First Light agreed. You are unique in the galaxy. You combine traits that should not go together. Aggressive yet compassionate, competitive yet cooperative, dangerous yet protective. You are not just survivors. You are adapters, innovators, and explorers. The council members rose one by one, a sign of deep respect. Earth will no longer be marked as a danger zone, First Light announced. Instead, it will be known as the Crucible World, the planet that created the most resilient species in known space. Professor Green added one final observation. In our fear of your potential for violence, we almost missed your greater potential for growth. You have much to teach us about adaptation, resilience, and the power of diversity. As the human delegation and council members began discussing the details of their new relationship, First Light made a personal note in the galactic records. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history. We finally understand that Earth's humans are not dangerous because they are primitive or aggressive. They are remarkable because their harsh world forced them to become the most adaptable species we have ever encountered. The galaxy has much to learn from the species that turned survival itself into an art form. Earth is no longer the hornet's nest we fear. It is the school where we might all learn to be stronger.